Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are right now. Thank you for tuning in to the Conversations with Dr. Don show. The show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon area. And for your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we have decided to talk about. Tonight we'll be talking about awareness of the fourth dimension, and my guest is Rick East.
Good to meet you.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We pressed him into service now because the regular guest who was scheduled to be here didn't show up, so we're going to wing it here in this show. But a few words I've had with Rick, I think he will have some interesting things to say about the fourth dimension and other things that will come up spontaneously. It's always fun that way.
Yes, yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
I feel great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do.
Are you nervous?
No, not really.
That
I mean, we're going to have some
bothers me,
fun.
'cause I'm nervous.
You're nervous?
Yeah.
They say if you're not scared, then you're either stupid or dead. So if you're not nervous, I don't know. I just make jokes when I get nervous. So
You're
bad
going to
jokes.
make a lot of jokes?
I probably will because I'll get nervous. Yeah.
So, my producer, Ellery Nelson, is a friend of yours.
Yes.
And Ellery brought you here tonight because we were going to show you some stuff going on in our studio and what we do in our shows. And because my other guest didn't show, we've got you now.
Yep. You're stuck with me.
You're stuck with me.
The understudy. I didn't even know he was an understudy.
So anyhow, let's talk about the bio, who you are. And if I ask you some questions that you don't want to answer, don't answer. And it goes pretty easily because it's pretty straightforward, just who you are. And you'll see what I mean as we get into it.
Sure. I'll do my best.
You know, I'll tell you a little about myself because you didn't see me before. I'm pretending that I'm a guest, and I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, of red, white, and black Roman Catholic parentage on December 26, 1928. Today I am a-religious and accepting of all others. I am a retired PhD clinical psychologist and present-day television broadcast journalist. That's hard to say. I'm the 12th of 12 children, am married, and am the father of 5 daughters by a first marriage. Politically, I'm a progressive populist activist. Hard to say again. Still learning how to live lovingly. I'm still learning how to live lovingly. A few of my heroes include Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and any other fellow human who is currently living lovingly. Are you living lovingly?
I think I am, or trying to. I'm getting better at it, maybe. Yeah, it's new for me. Yeah.
Okay, starting right off now. If I were to ask your best friend, who is Rick?
My best friend
would say Rick is.
Yeah, he would say, or she would say. Actually, it's my wife. My best friend. She would say that he makes me laugh.
You do?
Yeah, I do. She said that's why she stayed with me for 38 years. But
38 years?
38 years, yes.
Wow, you must have been a child bride, a husband or something, never mind.
Yeah, and
I'm not very great at humor anyhow.
And I'm the younger one in the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we were in our mid-20s. So we've been together for 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah.
Well, by God, it brings me to when and where were you born?
I was born in Sacramento, California.
California.
I was raised there, grew up there. My dad was an attorney for the state of California. He worked in the Department of Transportation, financing bridges and freeways in California.
Interesting.
My mom was a teacher, and she was also a lab technician in the hospitals before we were born, my sister and I.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in Sacramento. I went to University of California at Berkeley and studied economics there.
Mm-hmm.
And got a job in the South Bay area, the electronics, in the late 70s, where they were hiring a lot of entry-level electronics was exploding, and Silicon Valley area.
Mm-hmm.
So I met my wife there at the company we worked at, Advanced Micro Devices at the time. And then we worked in the Valley for 16 years, had our 2 daughters there, and moved up to Oregon in 1994. I got a job with Intel in the supercomputer division, which happened to be in these buildings that we're sitting in right now. They were a little different in those days, but it's like coming home here. And my daughters are grown, and my wife and I, we just live a angry mules kick from this building.
Angry music, I like that.
Pretty close.
But you're going right through this now. Are you nervous yet?
No, not yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
It depends on the questions you ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a couple of trick questions for
Okay.
you. Why were you born?
I was born. That's always a good question. The title that we're talking about, awareness of the fourth dimension, a lot of it has to do with spirituality and where you came from before, and you chose to come here at this particular time to assist humanity in some particular way.
Say that again.
You chose to be present here in the third dimension, which is our daily life.
Sure.
And there is some reason for you to be here in your assistance or helping of humanity. So I'm recently retired. I retired 2 years ago, and when I did retire, it was like, well, there's got to be more. This isn't what life is. You don't just go through your profession and your job and raise your family and your kids, and you just kind of go through motions. There's got to be something bigger. But I never really spent much time thinking about it because you're too busy surviving. Similar to our prior guest talking about, you're too busy getting through a day to do some of the things to get ahead.
Yeah.
So when I retired, I started to think more about these bigger topics, and I got involved with people who were helpful with me for. I do meditation, and I think more deeply about why I'm here or who I am, why I was born.
Do you meditate?
Yes.
Every day?
Every day, in different ways, not necessarily the same spot every day. I have a spot at home that's quiet. I found that I do a lot of meditation on the treadmill,
Yes.
and in the gym, and you do. I find I wear mala beads. This is kind of reminds me at times to think about things and slow down.
Do you believe in space aliens?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. I don't know much about it, but I've always believed that we aren't the only beings here, and we're probably not very advanced compared to all the universe. It's so vast. It's so huge. Now I'm going to make you nervous, huh?
Now, anything significant about your racial or national or cultural heritage that my viewers would be interested in knowing about you?
Probably not so much. I'm just
white bread?
pretty much Swedish and English, a mix of Swedish and English. I want to do one of those DNA tests because I'd like to find out if there's other things. But most of our genealogy and our studies have pointed us very specifically back to very specific people. So there may be some journeys outside. I always thought it would be interesting to have some other blood, but so far I haven't bumped into it. Maybe we'll do one of those genealogy tests and find out some interesting things.
Do you think those are fairly accurate?
I really don't know, but I think there's something to them because the science is there. I don't think they're perfect, but I think it can.
I think they're flawed.
Do you?
Sure. You heard about wood piles? Wood piles, there are things that, you know about that, okay.
Yeah.
How about a religious preference? Do you have one of those?
Well, I was born and raised as a Presbyterian. My family was full of Presbyterian ministers, but I married a Jewish girl. And 30 years later, I did convert to Judaism. But
are you practicing now?
I guess.
Just a belief structure rather than a religious.
Not going to synagogue. or a community or a congregation, but probably culturally. But I'm drawn more now to the group that that I'm with spiritually, the meditation group. I'm drawn more to that, and that's what's taken me to this awareness of fourth dimension.
What do you mean by spiritual? What does that mean to you?
Spiritual it's beyond body. It's much bigger, and I think the prior guests talked about that. There's something much bigger out there in the universe. I think we're all connected, but we tend to feel like we're isolated in this third dimensional world. And spirituality, when you shed the I don't know what I'd call it, shackles, but the body's heavy. There's a lot going on in this third dimension with our egos, you've got pain, you've got stresses, a lot going on here. And I think that I really believe that there's more to life than just that. So spirituality to me is a sense of being, and it's not my body, it's a sense of being, an awareness, a consciousness.
Is there a feeling associated with spirituality?
I guess it can be different things for different people, I guess.
What is it for you?
A feeling? I think the feeling is setting intention, what you believe or know. First off, know what you believe, and then set intention for what you need or want to do. I think from a perspective of trying to be a person who helps humanity, who assists humanity. And again, I'm relating a lot with the guy that sat here before, but we are in completely different spaces.
I'm glad he was here.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a good contrast in some ways, him and me. On the other hand, there's a lot of parallel there.
My viewers are going to be forced to watch the show that was on before you, but let me continue on with my
be
bio stuff, all right? And do you have a practicing religion that you practice nowadays?
Yeah, I think if I'm practicing, I would say Judaism, but we've not just locked into one religion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And your formal education, you mentioned a little about that.
Yeah, I studied economics at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
And then I got an MBA at San Jose State University.
In what?
It was general business. Yeah, Master of Business Administration, MBA. Wow. And then in general, I didn't focus on any particular discipline like finance or something. And I worked in the electronics industry my whole 40-year career, the last 22 up here in Oregon with Intel.
What'd you do?
I was in materials management mostly, new products development for not the chips, but the computer systems.
So you just retired?
2 years ago, yeah.
What are you doing since you retired?
I'm doing all kinds of stuff.
You getting into mischief?
I'm trying not to too much, but that's hard to stay out of trouble.
How about
I'm trying
kids?
to learn new things.
What kind of kids you got?
2 daughters.
How old are they?
36 and 30.
Do they like you?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually, my whole family attended, my wife and my 2 daughters attended a class this weekend all together about finding your gifts or understanding your gifts. So we chat and have some pretty deep conversations. We have some really bizarre conversations at dinner about just about any topic. Girls are, I thought when I was in college and sat at the dinner table with my college buddies that was bad. No, it doesn't hold a candle to my girls.
I noticed that look of pleasure in your face and in your eyes.
Yeah, the guys, I guess, were too busy when dinner was served. Everybody was rushing for the food, so nobody talked. But the girls don't eat as much, and they talk. Yeah.
Any grandchildren?
No grandchildren. Yeah, my daughters aren't. They're not married. They're on with their careers, and they've changed. And my older daughter's getting close, I think. But so we don't have any grandchildren. Yeah.
Yeah. And just the one marriage, huh?
Yep.
Yep. And what else do you do in your retirement besides follow Ellery around and get into trouble with him?
Well, I started doing some work. My wife's a hypnotist, and I try and.
You are really weird.
Yeah, I am weird. Huh? I told you. I told you.
So am I.
You're throwing us. You're throwing us in, and we're going to do this. And people are going to write all these letters to us. But trying to work with her. I started doing some filming, just trying to do video, and then I got interested, and that's why I've come here, is I want to go through the program and learn about production and filming and editing and such. So that's actually where Ellery and I started chatting, and then I went down and assisted him on some work that he was doing.
He's all kinds of stuff going on in his life.
Yes, he does. Yeah. So I want to go through the course and become certified, be one of the production folks. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then go out in the field and do things. I've always made little slideshows and little videos, but they're real amateur stuff, and it would be nice to do some better work. So that's of interest. We've got just projects around the house. Owning a house keeps you constantly fixing and things like that. I've helped some other friends with video, and that right now is a big thing. I really want to learn to fly fish. I've only done with bait, and learn how to fly fish. So that seems interesting and active. And my wife and I just bought some kayaks, so we're going to get out on the water this summer. But we're learning how to be retired. We have 5 dogs, so that keeps us pretty busy.
5 dogs?
5 dogs.
Nobody has 5 dogs.
Well, we do. We have 5 dogs.
Say something about them.
Actually, we have 4 dogs, and one's one of our daughters. So the herd is 1 Chihuahua, 1 Shih Tzu, 2 Boston Terriers.
What's your language? Boston Terrier.
2 Boston Terriers, and then a mix, a big mix. She's the big dog, but the one who runs the show, the little Chihuahua.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's the oldest, and he's blind, and he still runs the show.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
he doesn't take guff from any of the others.
Okay. That occupies most of your time?
Right now, yeah. I want to, like I said, helping my wife with things. And we're going to a conference in Las Vegas next month. It's her conference. I go play, not in the casinos. I don't gamble. I go out into the nature. Lots to see around Las Vegas.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah. Go up in the mountains, go to the wetlands, go to the desert, go out to the lake.
You meditate in strange places?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
You find nice, peaceful places and
meadows.
Yep. Or even in the desert, you get out there and you stop and you listen. There's a lot going on out there. And when it's funny, there's a sign. I was out east or west of Las Vegas, and there's a sign that had burro crossing, wild burros, and these burros just will show up in the road there, and there's a little town. The burros just walk down through the street, and they're just a part of the citizenry there. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But a lot of good people you bump into when you travel around. So I like that. I grew up with horses, so my family hobby when I was a kid, and then my hobby with my family. Right now we don't have any, but I would hope to get back and get back with some horses. So
Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations.
you know, as far as the politics goes, I'm not a member of any party.
Mm-hmm.
I don't match up with any of them. I read the thing every time, and so I just stay as a what do you call it now? A
Nonpartisan.
Yeah. Yeah, that you can't even call yourself an independent because there's an independent party.
Yeah.
But so I try and go like George Washington intended. You take the issue and pick the side you agree with and vote that way. But everything's kind of gotten really mashed up these days, and I'm not real thrilled with what's happening at the moment.
Who is?
Yeah, who is?
Yeah.
It's just brutal. I mean, when I always liked the term the loyal opposition.
Yeah.
And that respected each other, even though you didn't agree on the breath. But today, with the in-your-face partisanship, it's not the way it's not the way it should be. I can't stand the term "take our country back" that both parties use when the other's in power. It's not take your country back. It's our country. It's just
It kind of smells.
yeah. We need to get together.
And the media goes along with this BS that avoids us talking about the reality, what we should be about.
That's because they gotta get eyeballs watching their show, and everything's reality TV now. It's not like Walter Cronkite back in the days just reported the news.
Oh,
Yeah.
memories of flooding back in.
Yeah.
When those guys spoke, you could believe them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's just they're all reality shows. Even the president is the biggest reality show ever. And probably when it say that, you're going to get letters.
What's the difference between sympathy and empathy? And I asked the earlier guest about that.
I heard that, and actually he described that very well.
Isn't he bright?
Yeah. Very, very intelligent guy.
Mm-hmm.
But empathy, as he said, you walk, and I believe just what he said, so I'm not going to add anything to it.
Yeah.
You can walk in that person's shoes. You can feel what they feel, and there's nothing worse than what was the word he used? Condescending, and I don't think people tend to be condescending, but sympathy can be kind of a false expression, whereas empathy and demeaning, and most people don't mean it that way. You know, your intention is good, but like anything, you can have good intentions and bad execution. It doesn't work out.
For me, empathy is something I can feel or see or experience with you. If you are indeed empathetic with what's troubling me,
Yep.
I sense it more than hear what you're saying.
Right.
And then if I linger long enough and not interrupt what's the feeling to intellectualize it, then there's a connection there that's very unique. And if I'm with a fellow human being who is capable of that, as I am learning more and more how to let go and just experience you and your reality, and you experience me, that's
part of awareness of fourth dimension, right there.
God, I'm going to be a straight man.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, we practice this for hours. Yeah.
So what else can I ask you about any persons from history or alive today that you particularly admire or look up to?
My number one all-time, Abraham Lincoln.
Why?
He had not just from the personal point of view, but he was very, very adept at reading people and timing and timing of when, based on the time that he was president, he evolved his thought, and he also understood how and when he could get certain things done. So let's just take the big one. The Civil War would, in my mind, would not have been fought. There wouldn't have been a shooting war without the issue of slavery. His position in the beginning was against its expansion, not to stamp it out. As the war was put on him pretty much, and as things developed, he used the issue one as a political issue to keep Europe out of the war, and as it evolved and he understood the way as terrible as it was, the war going on longer allowed the position to evolve to where they could eventually he could issue an Emancipation Proclamation followed by the 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
Lincoln wasn't going to stop or abolish slavery. He was going to prevent it from expanding, but his thought process evolved. And he knew if he played things too soon, then just like today, social change, just because it's wrong, you're not going to squash it in a moment.
No.
It takes an evolution of the society, and he was adept at reading that. And that's one of the most. I read books on him all the time because I just feel like we could really. And the second thing is he was not a Donald Trump. He was an individual who was very empathetic. He was an individual who had no big ego. He supported or he stayed in the background. He was extremely willing to allow others to take credit, and just an amazing individual. Plus, he was funny as hell. You know, his storytelling.
You've really done some research on him, huh?
I've read several books. The best one I've read about 4 times now, and it was the one that Doris Kearns Goodwin wrote,
Yes.
the Team of Rivals, which is one of my favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big fat book, and I've read it 4 times, and every time I get something new, I'll probably read it again, too.
She's a great writer then, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, excellent. But to your question, he's probably my #1 historical figure.
Do you think of any presidents that had were Lincoln-like in that respect, generally speaking, who had those kinds of personality characteristics that you admire so much? Any presidents that you know about?
In recent ones, I think I'm also drawn to, and he was different in a lot of ways, but JFK. I think he was a learning president because he made some blunders right out of the chutes, but he learned from them, and he was, I forget his personal life, but as a president, I admire him second to Lincoln.
Had Bobby, his brother, survived, would his brother Bobby have surpassed Jack Kennedy in what he was about as a loving human being?
Well, Bobby Kennedy was a good human being.
But he grew fast.
Yeah, he grew fast. Yes, that would have been I've thought about that. You know, that what would have been like had that not happened in in L.A. that day, because I think there was just a big growing movement behind Bobby Kennedy. What would it have been like with him as president, as opposed to Richard Nixon? We'll never know. You know, it's all speculation. But his brother was an excellent politician. I still like to, when he's on and doing an interview, I've probably seen all the interviews 10 times. I'll still watch them because he was great at that. You know, most of the guys I don't
So
care to listen to.
believable.
Yeah, and he was personable. He was quick on the draw, but when he spoke, there was intelligence in his words.
And kind of with the intelligence, he was still rather simple and folksy.
Yeah, and although he was a son of a gun, behind the scenes, from what I understand, Bobby Kennedy was the good guy, although he was the bulldog in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting times.
What's going to be happening in the next generation or two with politics in our country?
I think that this right now, this current situation is pivotal because we're going to either move into kind of like what Lincoln said, we'll be all one or all the other, but we can't be a combination of both.
Mhm.
And I hope we don't keep going the way we're going. I hope that people will get more involved and bring it back to reasonable political discourse.
Reasonable, that's important.
Yeah.
A reasonable alternative to what we have going on now.
Yeah, this is all about the guy. He doesn't care about you and me. That's my opinion.
Does he have a
More
personality
letters.
disorder?
He's all about him, and so you know that's just the way I see it.
Is
I
there
mean,
any-
it'll get me to go out and work for Democrats, and I'm not because that's probably the best alternative, unless somebody. Wouldn't it be great that if he didn't get the nomination? I shouldn't be going in this direction.
Go in the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying you so much. Oh, and where the time go by, it's flying by. We need to keep going here. Anybody else that you know, for me it was Gandhi and Jesus, and I already said that before. So you
I
know
like
what I'm
that
about.
of the scientists. I mean, I think guys like Tesla and Einstein are, they've for bringing science and the universe for understanding a connection of spirituality as well as the physics that they did. That's part of what I'm trying to understand now. I think it is all meshed together. My belief is that quote, the spirit or source or God works in conjunction with the physical world, and it's all one thing.
Okay, let's take a break, Mr. Director, and then we'll come back and talk about some more interesting stuff with this. A lot of hugs too. I'm a hug freak. Pardon me, we're back again. We're back. Thanks for staying tuned, and for you viewers who missed the opening of this wonderful show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like my guest here tonight about who he is as a unique, one-of-a-kind individual, and he is that. And we'll be talking about the fourth dimension and what follows that. So let's continue on. I wanted to ask you about meditation because I'm curious about medication.
Medication.
Yeah. Meditation. I've meditated off and on all my life. And TM, Transcendental Meditation. And I keep saying to myself, I got to go back and start meditating like I used to do many years ago, because life is different when I'm meditating regularly. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
So talk to me about meditating and what it does for you as compared to not doing anything
Okay.
that produces the same result.
So I'll wind back a little bit.
Of course.
My first experience with meditating was with a group that got together, and they sat in chairs, and there was a famous somebody. I always forget his name.
Yeah.
But he did it by video, And so everybody's sitting in this room, and chairs similar to this, and then they close their eyes and they meditate, and then they freeze frame this guy's face up on the screen. And I made the mistake of opening my eyes, and he looked so goofy that I wanted to start laughing. So I'm sitting here with all of these people, and I'm trying to, this is my first time in meditation many years ago,
Of course.
and I'm trying to hold in the laughter, and it's just getting harder and harder because this guy looked so goofy to me. And I made it through. I should have got up and left the room because I could have just, exploded and disturbed the group. But I didn't. I made it through the whole thing, but I never wanted to be a part of anything like that again. And years later, and my wife got involved with a group, and I saw that it was helpful for her. And she started studying more about spirituality. And so she invited me, but I didn't want to go. So what if I start laughing? I don't want to, upset the group, and I don't want to embarrass you, and I don't want to embarrass me either. And then eventually, though, I went, and this group fit me, and the people were open and honest. It wasn't this, big fake like a screen, and I just didn't relate to that. It was real people, and they talk about real issues, and real problems, and then meditation. What we will do is it's very relaxing. Number one. Number two, for me, it helps focus.
Quiet the mind.
Yes.
Quiet the mind.
The mind goes, the monkey brain syndrome, it goes all over the place. And sometimes at night that happens, you can't sleep, and you can't get it under control. So the meditation is kind of starts training the mind how to focus, how to be present, and let it go too, but how to bring it back. A lot of focus on breathing. Breathing's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Just about everything we do. If you go to the gym, you have to breathe right to exercise.
Of course.
You breathe to calm yourself. Like coming in here, if you're nervous, you can take some deep breaths, and it can calm you right down, and you'll be fine. Breathing is so important. So you kind of integrate the breathing with the meditation and with the mind. So I'm a newbie. I'm still really a rookie. I'm no expert, and I wouldn't begin to tell your viewers that how to do or what to do. But for me, it's been extremely helpful to also help define intention, either in a given day or for larger goals. And then I don't want to say control your mind, but be able to work with your mind to be helpful and positive, rather than letting all the negative baggage that can jump into your thought process.
Well, the neocortex can be baggage in itself.
Yeah.
We need only a small amount of brain power to do the things necessary to keep the physical body alive and functioning, and continuing on evolution, an evolutionary process of the species. But the brain gets in the way of experiencing what I call being.
Yes.
The idea is to simply be.
Yes.
And it's so difficult. This damn mind gets in the way. And that's what meditation is for me, to quiet the mind. I keep repeating that way of looking at it because I want to stimulate myself to go back, because I've been retired for 24 years or so. And I find I have so darn many things going on. There's no time even for meditation.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to say that.
Yeah. But
You know what I mean?
You can, yeah. It seems like you're busier when you are retired, because you have so many things you're involved with. When you're working, you're focused on that one thing, So it keeps you from doing other things, and then when you get retired, it's how do I prioritize? How do I really control that? So you're right on from my point of view, and your being, and I like to use, for me, visualization.
Okay.
to do my meditation because it's real. I have my the way my mind processes things is I try and take mental exercises or theories and put them to work in real life, and so visualization for me. I'll take riding horses. When you sit on the horse, there are times you could become a part of this being. You become one with this horse. You communicate, not like Hollywood jerking the reins around, but you communicate with your body and through your hands, and you have to be present. Or as I used to do with one of my horses, she was out in a mare out in the field. I could just hop up on her, and we could just cruise the field. Now sometimes I'd let her go, and that's like letting the mind go. And then sometimes I'd bring it back in, and then I would direct her, and then bring that focus in. So some of the visualizations I like to do would be similar to that, or running a marathon. I always I don't like I like to mix up my workouts and do different things. I don't like the days that I just go the same pace for a long period of time.
Sure.
So I was taking my mind, I'm running the marathon as the U.S. representative to the Olympics, and go through steps, visualize the process of starting all the way to winning the gold medal in the stadium with everybody cheering. You know, and it gets you through that. But in that time, there's times when you let the mind go and see everything around you when you're running, and then there are times when you pull back in, you can feel the pain, or you feel that extra before you hit the second wind, or any of those types of features that evolve during the course of a long run. When visualizing that, and then allowing the mind to get away from that when you need to, and focus when you do need to, bringing it out, bringing it back in. Just kind of works for me. Visualization is a really good thing for me.
Being, that's the bottom line.
Yep.
Being. I think about my favorite meditating place many years ago. I think it's a meadow in Yellowstone. And I can't remember the name of it right now, but at sunrise, my wife and I were going along, usually we're together, and then I said, there was this big rock, you could hardly climb up to the top of it, on the edge of this meadow, big meadow.
Yeah.
Nobody else around, nobody but the sun coming up,
Yep.
barely. And I says to her, you need to keep going, I'm going to be here for a while. I don't know how long I'll be, but I'll be here for a while. And it wasn't long after she took off down the path, and something happened to me. Something happened for me, or with me, or I happened. And there was a sense of timelessness. I don't know how long this lasted, but I was aware when I came back and started thinking, which is something other than being or experiencing, my living, my moment.
Yeah.
And I thought, the first thought that crossed my mind was, how long have I been here? That's when it's really effective. That's when I'm really happening.
Yeah.
Quiet the mind. I keep going back with that. And I got to report back to you whether or not talking to you has helped me to go back to start meditating again. But then I got to get rid of some other stuff that I enjoy so much. I've been taking voice lessons now for about 3 years now.
Wow.
Singing, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the next adventure that I decide to go into, something addition that gives us such pleasure and such joy, which is on a par of meditating. Now, I'm carrying on here. It's your turn.
So you touched on the morning. I used to be involved with Civil War reenacting, and I did it because I'm very interested in history. I was in the cavalry, so the horses, and one of the things I was interested in is the possibility of time travel. And when you do something like this, you surround yourself with things and artifacts. You trying to live life in the era. During the middle of the day, you know where you are, but early in the morning in a camp, when there's no cars, there's nothing of the 21st century around. If you're standing guard duty and that sun comes up over the hill like you described,
Yeah.
you get that sense. Many people have described it. I always wanted to have a real strong feeling there for that time travel, but it's an instant. It happens in an instant, and people are transported back to 1863 for just a split second. You don't know how long you've been there, but it does work.
Timelessness.
It's timelessness, exactly. It's like in that movie Somewhere in Time, the Christopher Reeve character, he goes back in time, but by surrounding himself with all of these things until a modern penny or nickel shows up, and then for me, I'd be looking out there at the sun and then turn around and there's the porta potty in the distance. Snaps you right back to it. But morning time is a time you can time travel, and you can do that you can do that now. You can get out and about like you did in Yosemite.
You've been doing some traveling around the world, have you?
Yes.
You go to Hawaii?
You know, I haven't been to Hawaii since I was 11 years old.
Oh,
I've been to a lot of
been
places, but
Haleakala, did you go to Haleakala?
I remember mainly we went to Maui, we went to Kauai, and then on Oahu we went to the Punch Bowl. We went to obviously Waikiki and stuff like that. But that was a long time. That was 1966.
Yeah, I'm talking about. There is a PBS hour show on the quietest place
Oh.
on earth, Haleakala. And if you're there at the right time of morning when there's nobody else around, and you don't know what quiet is until you're far away from the hustle and bustle of human activity,
Yeah.
and you hear the quiet, it's hard to describe. But I watched that show 3 or 4 times, and my wife and I went back. I said, we got to go one more time because I'm getting old now. The Haleakala, first thing in the morning, I can experience that one more time. It's a highlight of beauty and pleasure and joy in my life. And this isn't going to end very well because she got sick on the airplane over, and we couldn't get to the club we were going to.
Yeah.
And we had to pull over when we left the airport, and it's just for her to be sick.
Yeah.
And we finally got her to the resort, and it was really bad for her. She was just having her head in the toilet the whole time. And then I thought, I escaped it, didn't bother me. And 2 days later, as I'm nursing her, I came down with it. So we were sick as a dog for about 2 or 3 more days. He says, what the hell are we doing here? Let's see if we can get well enough to get back home.
Yeah, let alone, yeah.
But that's one of my peak experiences, talking about meditating and feeling and being.
Yeah.
Haleakala. Go to Haleakala.
That's interesting because the only thing I know when you're sitting in a building and you have the air system is running, and then all of a sudden they shut it off, and it's like there's no sound. There is sound, but it's as close as I think I know what you're saying. You were talking about almost a vacuum situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some of the African tribes, they found that they tested them with excellent instruments, and to demonstrate how far they can be away from the source of somebody talking to them from across a football field, for example. And their hearing is acute.
And they hear it. Yeah. Yeah, and around here, you just go stand outside and you always hear 26. Or, maybe a little louder some days than others because of which way the wind's blowing. But you never get away from the human sounds, let alone the natural sounds.
The Sound of Silence. Who wrote that?
Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tell me a story. We got about 2 or 3 or 4 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Well, let's think of another story here.
Nice.
Yeah, I wear these every day now since a very good friend of mine made them and gave them to me. She gives them to all the people in the meditation group. But it's like I said, it's a remind. For me, it's mainly a reminder. Some people use it. There are 108 beads on it, and then there's dividers between every 27, and then they call them the starting point, guru, and they're kind of like the rosary bead. They one by one and chant. This was pointed out to me. If you've ever seen the movies where, oh shoot, what's his name? He was in the Lethal Weapon 4, Jet Li. Jet Li's always holding and working his way through the beads, and he'll count and chant, and he always has that. But for me, I usually don't run through it that way. I mainly use it as a reminder, because you can meditate in many different places. I realized that I was actually doing it for years before I knew it. And it doesn't have to be in one quiet place, although that's always nice to have at your home. But life gets going, and you don't have to not or miss a day. Take a moment for yourself, and and just kind of get centered. Things are hectic and crazy, but they're not all that bad. Yeah.
You got 5 minutes. You got my
We're getting the
cards.
You're getting the hook. Did the hook come
We've
out?
got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Well, we've got about 3 minutes for you and I to talk some more before we put up a few public service announcements. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
So I think on the topic we kind of made this awareness of the fourth dimension. I think for me, the key is that looking for that bigger, better purpose. Looking at things. I probably would be more cynical in my working days, and probably not as coming as I don't want to say sympathetic, but an empathetic approach to people. I'm probably moved more liberal as I've retired, as opposed to where I was, and it's similar to the guy that was just here in some ways, but compassion is such a big deal. We're all in this together. You're not separate from me. We're hooked into this together. The third dimension, though, we have a tendency to think sometimes that we're isolated, that we're individual beings, but we're part of something much bigger. The Earth and the universe is just so vast and hard to understand. I like I've read the books that Stephen Hawking did, because he breaks it down enough to where you can go, oh, I think I kind of get that. And then you think about it a little more, and you go, no, I don't really. But better than before. And the people that it's all religion or all science, no, I think it's all mixed up. So it all works together. And I think that understanding that higher self, this fourth dimension, which is this and more of it's a spiritual world. It's without body. I'm not going to talk about reincarnation or any of. I don't understand enough about the spirit world yet. But from my awareness of the fourth dimension and spirituality and energy, I mean that's the main aspect of fourth dimension is energy. That we come at our role in the world in helping humanity from a compassionate perspective. And that's what I'm trying to learn to do in my retirement years.
I do know that when I'm with another human being and I am achieving being with this mind quieted, the only time I'm aware of using my brain is how much time have I been in this state of simply being, and when I do that, then I lose being because I'm thinking again.
You're thinking again. Yeah, I know. We get in the way, huh? Yeah.
So say something to the viewers, 30 seconds or so, a minute or so, anything comes to mind about what we talked about, anything else for that matter. Look at that camera over there.
This camera over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, and say something to the viewers. Hello, viewers.
Hello, viewers. Please don't send in a bunch of letters to Dr. Don. I was a last minute throw in, but I hope you enjoyed our chat.
And what a delightful human being. I appreciate you very much. And I don't polish the apple too hard, so I really mean that. And we'll talk some more when the cameras stop rolling in another couple of minutes or so. PSA, public service announcement 1 or 2, just to be sure. To watch my shows on the web, Google Don Baham YouTube. Don Baham YouTube. There's hundreds of shows through the years. People like my guest here and Mr. Earl and other people through the years. The American Humanist Association, I'm a humanist, and that's as good as organized religion. And to learn more about the Alliance for Democracy, that's a good liberal left-wing organization I belong to for many, many years. My favorite, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. Go to the website and learn more about the ACLU. Without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be really gone by now. We got to end corporate personhood. Go to move2amend.org and talk about corporations are not persons. And money is not speech. We're going to take back our Constitution and make America great again. No, I shouldn't use that. Thanks for watching. And remember KFC. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. To you too. And you too. And you too.
Thank you.
What a great show.